Hi, I'm Matto, and welcome back to the third devlog for our project Night Run. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about the game development portion of the project and explain the process of starting with a prototype and moving into a production build. Let's get started. So welcome back. Check out the other videos in the Night Run playlist if you haven't seen them already to get up to speed. In this video, I want to talk about the game development piece of the project and kind of how we've got to the place where we're at and where we're going next. The Night Run game is a project that I actually started several years ago, building in Unity by myself and using game building blocks from the Unity asset store. So 3D models, there's a motorcycle controller, some materials and textures, and there's a road system that I was using. But basically, I built the prototype almost entirely out of sort of pre-made parts, right? I did some C# programming to make it all stitch together and function the way that I wanted to. I wrote the code for the procedural city generation, kind of road generation algorithm. I actually have a tutorial on how I did that, which I can put a link to here. I actually published that on my old Matt Mirafish YouTube channel a couple of years ago. And so I was kind of working on it, and I had this idea of doing this thing with the billboards. I wanted to do some kind of billboards as artwork or kind of abstracted billboards. And the first idea I had was kind of putting these like stock photography with like sort of confusing words over them. And that was okay, but I really liked this mood of driving through the city, listening to music. I wrote some music for it, and there was something there, and I actually kind of kept coming back to it and playing it. Now, this would have been about a year ago. I was hanging out in the Terraforms Discord, and 113 from Terraforms was talking about bringing the Terraforms into Unreal and displaying them in 3D environments, but he put up some screenshots of putting terraforms on 3D planes, and then he had like a kind of a default Unreal environment with a character walking around, and seeing the terraforms on this kind of vertical, almost billboard-like surface kind of, clicked something for me and brought Night Run back to my mind, and I thought, oh yeah, I have this kind of billboard game. And so I thought, okay, this would be really cool to try and bring the terraforms in and put them on the billboards. And so that was kind of the first thing that I did. That was the first artwork that I brought in, and it looked really cool, especially with the terraforms because they're animated, they're kind of abstract, and I put the self-illuminating material in Unity, right, so they're kind of lit up. But then I thought, well, that's a little bit one-dimensional, right? So I started looking around for other artworks to pull in, and this was just as I was becoming aware of the whole Creative Commons Zero movement within the NFT space. Projects like Blipmaps by Dominic Hoffman, Cryptodes by Gremplin, and the fact that those were Creative Commons Zero, that they had this very permissive license, meant that I could just kind of experiment with them, right? I could just grab them, bring them in, and play with them in the game. And so I started to do that. And then I thought, oh, okay, it started to become something more interesting for me. And so this is all, in the game production methodology, this is all what we would call prototyping, where it's a small team, in this case just me by myself, and I'm really using a lot of pre-made assets. I'm using just kind of whatever I have available, and I'm doing it in a way that is pretty quick and dirty, right? I'm not taking tons of care to make sure everything is like perfectly architected and beautifully situated. I'm more just kind of throwing stuff in there and trying to get a feeling and trying to see if this is an idea that works. And in game development, there are many, many different schools of prototyping. Some people will make what's called like a white box or a gray box, right? Where it's really zero artwork. It's extremely primitive, but they're just testing the game interactions. In this case, it was more about kind of prototyping a feeling and a vibe. Talking with Josh, who's part of the 1000 Ant team, he was like, honestly, it kind of feels a little bit more like we're making a music video than we're making a game. And I think that's actually kind of accurate. It's more about the ambiance and the aesthetics than it is about this really complex layered gameplay, because obviously the gameplay is kind of just moving and driving. But I felt like there was something there, and I was pretty happy with it. And I started to share the concept with a couple of folks in the NFT space. I talked to Sam Spike, who was the curator at Fingerprints at the time, and a couple other people, and got positive feedback. Like, people were like, this is cool, this is interesting. And that kind of gave me some, further motivation to be like, okay, maybe this is something that we can do, that, pull in this NFT layer, take the game and make a more polished version of it and make it kind of more of a real project. And that kind of is where we're at now. I've got the prototype. The prototype has been finished now actually for a while. And now we are in the process of basically going back to square one and starting again to build the game in a kind of a production mode, right? Or like a high fidelity mode. One of the big changes that we made is we're updating to a new rendering technology called the high definition render pipeline, which is a part of Unity, which is aimed at doing more kind of realistic style graphics, and also just ripping out all of the kind of prototype, kind of duct tape together stuff that I had done in the original, and replacing it, making the roads look better, making sure everything is smooth and connects properly, cleaning up all the environment geometry of the city. That's actually kind of the next job in front of me. And just taking it and turning it into a polished version of itself, but with the benefit of knowing pretty clearly what we want to make. And that's really like the value of making a prototype, is that okay, this is the target, this is the feeling, these are the parts of it that are working, and these are the parts of it that we need to improve. And then basically, instead of kind of trying to take that and fix it or clean it or bring it into the next iteration, we basically just threw it out and are starting again. So the rendering is one area that we're improving. The other big area that we knew we needed to improve was with the motorcycle handling. You can see in a lot of the prototype footage, the bike is kind of doing these jerky turns. It doesn't feel super fast. It doesn't feel super fluid to control. And that was fine for the prototype because I just needed to get the feeling. But obviously for the real game, if the only thing you're doing is driving, we want that to feel as good as we can, right? So that was actually the first thing that Josh from our team kind of sat down to do, and basically rebuilt from scratch a new motorcycle controller to make something that felt good to drive, was kind of fit for purpose for the gameplay that we had. And I think he's done a really good job on that. And now the next stage is we've basically got a good or a much improved, there'll probably still be some refinement to it, but a much improved version of the motorcycle controller. We've rebuilt the roads, we've upgraded the rendering technology, and now I need to go in and rebuild all the environment tiles that the road generation is built out of. And we also need to figure out a technological solution for dealing with the large volume of content in these NFT collections, because all of these collections have like hundreds, if not thousands of pieces. I think we probably will end up pulling a subset of most of these collections, not pull in the entire 10K collection, because you'll end up with a download size for the game, which is huge. So we're kind of in this transitional moment of kind of leaving the prototype version behind, rebuilding from scratch with the lessons learned from the prototype and knowing much more clearly what we need to make. And then obviously moving forward on the other parts of the project, which are designing the website, which we've basically got a visual mock-up done for, and working on the design and branding for the imaginary fashion houses that are going to be in the token art. And that's the kind of other thing that we're currently working on in parallel. So we're making good progress. I feel pretty good about where we're at. I'm really excited to get into this next stage of the game development. I think it's going to start looking a lot better, and I'm excited to share that with you all. And yeah, if you have any comments, drop them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because we're here on YouTube. Check out the other videos in the Night Run playlist, and join us in Discord if you are not there already. Bring your questions, comments, and we just love to chat and have a good time in there. And so I'd love to see you there. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.